I'm Peter Wagner, Executive Director of the Prison Policy Initiative, and today I want to talk about one of the drug war's worst ideas, sentencing enhancement zones. Basically, people who commit drug offenses within a certain distance of places like schools get a long mandatory prison sentence on top of the punishment that they would receive for the underlying drug offense. Now, the idea was to give people who are going to violate the drug laws an incentive to move their activity away from children. But these laws have a fundamental flaw. The zones are simply too big to work. The worst version of this policy that I've seen is in Alabama. There's a 3-mile zone around thousands of schools. The Prison Policy Initiative mapped these zones, and we found that it covers virtually the entire populated part of the state. Now, less extreme versions of this law in other states share the same fundamental flaw. When you make everywhere special, nowhere is special. For example, until recently, Massachusetts had a fairly typical 1,000-foot zone law policy. Our two studies found that the law created a series of overlapping zones that blanketed the dense urban areas where most people live. These laws are in effect 24/7, regardless of whether school is in session or children are even present. The legislature put 1,000 feet into the law, but we discovered that virtually no one knows how big that distance is. We did an experiment to illustrate the problem. We found the flattest, straightest street near a school that we could find, and Alex Kostora, our report co-author, made a series of big white signs. Unlike drug dealers, we wanted to be easy to spot. At 100 feet, it was impossible to communicate except by shouting. At 250 feet, we had to switch to cell phones. At 500 feet, the only reason we can see Alex is because of her big white sign. And at 1,000 feet, Alex's big white sign is just a tiny speck at the end of a vacant lot because we've run out of street. We found that even under the best of circumstances, it's simply not possible for one person to influence another from 1,000 feet away. The legislature was simply wrong to assume that everyone within 1,000 feet of a school was a threat to children. And in the real world, these zone laws are measured as the crow flies, not down straight, flat streets. For example, here's a zone law that extends across a river to give an enhanced penalty to acts committed at a location that's actually 4 miles away from a school by car. So what do these laws do? Increasing penalties based only on where an offense occurs waste police and criminal justice resources on activities that are not as harmful as the legislature assumed. In fact, in Massachusetts, children had nothing to do with 99% of the zone cases. These zone laws are also unfair. By blanketing dense urban areas in increased penalties, the law essentially says that if you're black, if you're brown, or if you're urban, you're going to get a longer sentence than anyone else. That's surely not what the legislature intended. There's no question that protecting children from drugs is an important goal, but it makes a lot more sense to punish people who are actually endangering children, not to punish people who have some kind of general proximity to a school. For example, here in Massachusetts, we have separate laws in the books that give enhanced penalties for selling drugs to children or for involving children in the drug trade. Finally, sentencing enhancement zone laws can only work if it's possible for people to identify and avoid the off-limits areas. Making an entire city into a drug-free zone sounds great on the campaign trail, but actually protecting children requires a little more subtlety. The size of the zones is a fundamental flaw that keeps these laws from working as intended. Massachusetts and New Jersey recently rolled back their sentencing enhancement zone laws because these states understand that big zones do not work, can never work, and have serious negative effects. Punishment is supposed to fit the crime, not the location.